Hey there, welcome back to the show. This is Phil Vischer. This is the Phil Vischer Podcast. I'm here with Skye Jitani.
Have you been drinking?
I've been drinking green tea all morning. Okay. I have a cold. You're
kind of slurring your speech a little bit. And
I'm
slow.
I'm overcompensating for being low energy by being high, slightly drunken energy.
Have you been like on a NyQuil or some?
I've been in Dayquil, NyQuil, Evening Quill, Morning Quill, Porcupine Quill, every kind of quill they've got.
I think it's having an effect.
I'm on. Hey, it's a podcast. What do you know? Hey, it's a podcast. And we got video. Hey, it's a podcast. So lend an ear. The Phil Vischer Podcast starts right here. Oh, we'll talk to Skye.
Hi.
Yeah, but not Christian too, because she's not here, but we got a guest here for you. And his name is Michael. Say hi, Michael.
Hi.
Okay, good job.
To be here.
Good job. Well done. Hey, it's a podcast. So lend an ear. The Phil Vischer Podcast starts right here. The Phil Vischer Podcast starts right here. Okay, we have, Christian's not here. Michael Ware is here. Do you know who he is?
Yes, I do.
You know who Mike, because you invited him.
Yeah, we've known each other for a while.
Really? How long?
I actually don't remember. Michael, where did we meet?
Oh, wow. We've probably known each other since 2009, 2010.
Yeah, at least. Yeah,
Pretty early on.
Yeah. Okay. Michael Ware is the founder of Public Square Strategies and a leading expert and strategist in the intersection of faith, politics, and American public life. He was one of President Obama's, quote, ambassadors to America's believers. Michael directed faith outreach for President Obama's historic 2012 re-election campaign. He was one of the youngest White House staffers in modern American history. When he joined the campaign, he was 11. Something like that. Am I close? It doesn't say.
Well, that was
at least you got in the double digits. That was
well, because you were part of the 2008 campaign.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he led the thing in 2012, but he was
part in 2008,
right.
And he was 11.
Maybe.
We don't know. Okay. He served in the White House Faith-Based Initiative during President Obama's first term, where he led evangelical outreach. Ooh. How many evangelicals would you say you outreached successfully?
At least 6 or 8.
Okay.
Yeah, at least.
That's something we got to talk about.
He helped manage the White House's engagement on religious and values issues, including adoption and anti-human trafficking efforts. So, and he has a book out, which is what we're talking to him about. His book is called Reclaiming Hope, Lessons Learned in the Obama White House About the Future of Faith in America. Dum, dum, dum. Can you go back?
You might as well call it Tales from the Dark Side. According to many people.
I want the follow-up of lessons learned in the Trump White House about the future of faith in America. Now, then we can see if we're making like some sort of a Lord of the Rings kind of trilogy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, Michael, do you know, is there who's occupying that office or its equivalent in the Trump White House now?
No one yet.
The cabinet.
They haven't made any announcements. So Trump spoke at the National Prayer Breakfast in early February and didn't mention the office at all. So we're waiting to see what, if anything, moves forward there.
It would seem like, especially for a Republican administration and one that was so popular with white evangelicals, this would not be a difficult office to staff.
It depends on how you want to use the office. I would expect that there's some debate about whether the office should continue the focus it had in the Bush years and the Obama years of sort of social service delivery and faith-based partnerships to serve those in need, or whether
it could
be a useful kind of political platform. And like in many issues with this White House, I would imagine it's there's a lot of debate internally about how to move forward.
Right. Because you got the Ben Carsons on one side and the Bannons on another side, and there's a lot of different personalities. The Priebuses in the middle. Priebus.
Yeah.
That sounds like something you go to the doctor for.
Yeah, Priebus.
Yeah.
I got a Priebus on my armpit.
Or it was like a rejected name for a Toyota hybrid.
That's good. That's great. Okay, but we got to talk about the news before we dive into Michael's deep and endearing story. Disney is in the news last week.
Oh, goodness.
Disney.
I really didn't want to talk about
Disney. You really didn't want to talk about it? You have to talk about it.
I don't think you do.
You have to talk about it. Disney, first gay character in a Disney movie. That's what they're saying. I'm thinking, I don't know, the genie was a little light in his lamp. I don't know.
Who's the character?
LeFou in the live-action version of Beauty and the Beast.
He's Gaston's little sidekick.
Oui. And apparently there's a scene near the end of the film where it becomes clear that he's not just a fan of Gaston.
I thought he was gay in the original. I mean, I didn't think this was news.
What made you?
I don't know.
You didn't. There was no blatant, obvious. He's played by Josh Gad.
Okay.
In the live-action film.
Who was also Olaf the snowman.
He's the snowman in Frozen. Yeah, he came to fame in the Book of Mormon, the original. He was the original sidekick co-star.
He is really made to be a sidekick.
He's quite talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, musically.
Okay. What? And then people are freaking out about this because it's a kids' film?
It's never happened before. We've crossed the Rubicon. It's the pale. We're beyond it.
This gets back to I don't know if we talked about it on this podcast or the movie proposal podcast.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know.
Here's the challenge. I think it's fine that filmmakers want to be more inclusive and have diversity in their characters and in their actor, whatever.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, it was a big deal.
Which day are we talking about?
That day. During civil rights. Civil rights.
Oh, okay.
So there was more interest in having African Americans in big movies. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Yeah.
And the difference is when you cast an African American actor in a role, it's pretty obvious they're African American.
Yes, it is.
Because you can just see that they're African American. Right. You cannot see
the gay.
Someone
you can't see the gay. Is that what you're trying to say?
Right. Most of us anyway. And you can see Asian, you can see woman, you can see all these different things.
Yeah.
So in order to depict a character who's gay as gay, you actually have to reveal behavior.
Right. Something has to.
Right. And then you go, well, are you just shoehorning this into a story or a script where it wouldn't normally be?
Right. Right, like in Star Trek.
Exactly.
Most recent
That's
one,
when we talked about it.
Yeah, where was it Chekhov who was gay?
No. Chekhov's dead. It's the actor.
That's not nice.
No, they
say.
dedicated the movie to him, right?
Yeah, they did.
No, it was Sulu.
Sulu.
Because remember George Takei, who played Sulu in the original,
is a gay activist,
and he was even not.
And he said that dishonored Gene Roddenberry's original intent
because the character was not. His sexuality was not even a factor.
Right. There was no sex in space except Captain Kirk throwing himself at every female alien he
wanted to go where no man had gone before. That's just, so that's my beef is not that there's a gay character in a Disney movie. It's shoehorning what is a cultural or political
trying to actually
activism into
put something in there to make it clear he's not just friendly.
Or French.
Has a different orientation.
Right.
Or French. But same week, another news story, also Disney, didn't get picked up as much. The Disney Channel XD, which is their boys channel.
That's what, really?
Yeah. XD stands for boy.
What does XD mean? It should be
boy.
XY.
Stands for boy.
Did anyone else get that joke?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. That was wonderful. An animated Disney cartoon.
Wait, what does XD stand for?
I don't know. Extra dumb. I don't know. That's how we portray men these days.
Okay, sorry.
First same-sex kiss in a cartoon.
Like, not as a joke.
No. Here's
because I'm thinking cartoon.
Here's the scenario. It's at a concert. Someone's
extreme digital.
Extreme digital.
Yeah.
Because
it's supposed to be like only cartoons and stuff like
because regular digital just isn't enough. It's like Doritos. It's the Doritos thing again.
Yeah, go to that video.
This digital is so yesterday. I need something more extreme. It's a concert. Someone's playing a romantic song that makes everyone romantic, and the whole stadium wants to kiss. And so all the couples in the stadium kiss, and fairly prominently they feature two guys in a shot with about 3 couples kissing. And so, okay, never happened before. Same week. Dump, dump, dump.
So it's clearly not by accident.
Could it be a coincidence? Okay, so Franklin Graham, of course, is out in front. He's out in front of the news. He's already called for a boycott on the new Beauty and the Beast movie because of their agenda, their gay agenda. I don't know if you read this, a theater in Alabama. No, that's not where you would expect this to happen, is it?
Not at all.
No. Okay, a theater in Alabama says they've canceled the film. They're not going to show Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
And the reason is...
Do they show other films that include gay characters?
Hey, don't judge. The reason is, he says, we're looking for family entertainment. It may be a film or a theater that just does family movies. I don't know. He says, we're looking for family entertainment, and I want to show movies that I could watch sitting next to God or Jesus. Well, that's an exact quote. Not God and Jesus. And the Holy Spirit apparently doesn't factor in. He doesn't get invited to the movies in Alabama.
I don't even know what to do with that statement.
Can you watch?
Well, another way of saying that would be, I want to be able to sit and watch a movie with a clear conscience. Is that what he seems to be saying?
That might be another. Well, I guess he's equating showing a movie with a positive portrayal of homosexuality as sinning, and therefore Jesus would be mad at him if he was holding his popcorn.
I think someone should tell him that God has seen the movie.
Ooh.
Like, he's aware of what's in it.
Yeah, but he's not aware of this guy endorsing it by publicly displaying it. I can only imagine I can only imagine if God were to go through all of his movie viewing choices, are there any others that he isn't happy about?
I want to know if these same folks are going to call for a boycott over all of Disney, of all things Disney.
We tried that once.
I know. That's what I'm wondering. Is it going to happen again?
It didn't work.
What about when, like, Goofy finally announces that he's transitioning?
Into what? A dog or a man?
I don't know.
Which is he? Okay, sorry, I'm a little sick this week, but I'm doing my best. So here's the thing, okay? And, and Michael can also weigh in on this. We'll ask him pointed questions that he's completely unprepared to answer.
That's what we do.
Soon enough. It's what was the thing? Okay, if you're a conservative Christian, okay, are you with me, Skye?
I'm listening.
Because you seem disinterested already.
I'm listening.
Okay.
I told you I didn't want to talk about this.
So you are officially disinterested. Can I just...
I'm here.
Can I put you down as disinterested?
Just keep going.
Okay, because you need to RSVP these conversations. Okay, if you're a conservative Christian, you view homosexuality as sinful, then putting pro-homosexual kind of acceptance messages into programming aimed at your children would be akin to saying, hey, this is a pro-bank robbing message that we're putting, that it's okay to steal from public institutions. We're putting that in your children's programming, and then you're upset, right? That is logic. I'm not done yet.
Okay.
There's Don't bail on me before I'm done.
I'm understanding this to be an argument that a very conservative Christian might make,
yes.
Although I would disagree with the argument.
Yeah, you can disagree later.
Right, okay. All right, got it.
Now, the problem is if when you go to the other side of the table and you're someone who doesn't believe homosexuality is wrong and you equate it with civil rights, what you hear is the equivalent of saying, hey, I don't want programming for my kids that has black people in it.
Right.
Because black people is wrong. And obviously they're
better put, I don't want programming that mixes white people and black people because integration is wrong.
Right. No misogynation in my animation. That's
wow.
pretty good.
That's a rallying cry, isn't it?
Is it misogynated animated? Okay. So it's looking at something so completely differently that both sides can't help but be offended at the other. You're promoting sinful behavior to my kids. Well, you're anti-civil rights to your kids.
Right. Here's what I understand that. I think there's a whole nother layer of this.
Ooh. Is it like a parfait or like an onion?
Either. Pick. There are so few things in our culture that we can rally around that transcend partisanship, political ideology, religion, urban-rural differences, all the factions and ways that demographers split up our culture now. There's so few things we can rally around.
Yeah.
And one of those few things has been
Disney movies.
Like classic children's Disney movies. Like Beauty and the Beast, the original, which came out, was a 1991, something like that. Like, it's a classic. And there's no politics in it. There's There's
also no black people.
Well, it's set in France in like the 1600s.
I'm just saying. Which brings an interesting point. What was the treatment of gay people in France in the 1800s?
But that's
probably not great.
Part of the reason you go to these films, and part of the reason you go with your children to these films, is to escape some
controversies.
And so for Disney now to say, we're going to put this right front and center, I can understand why, regardless of your views on any of these issues, why it's like, okay, one more thing has been politicized or entered into the fray of the culture war. And I think a lot of people are looking for
But could you say the same thing about, oh my goodness, the new Disney film has women wearing pants. One more thing has been politicized.
Yeah, but we're beyond women wearing pants as a political.
So that's okay now.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's what Disney's trying to gauge is their view.
Is it okay? Have we moved on?
That we have this is a settled issue in our culture. Let's just go for it. But I think for a significant number of people, it's not a settled issue.
I think an issue is settled in our culture when Franklin Graham says it's settled, and until then, it's not settled.
Well,
can you call an issue settled when there's still a culture warrior hoisting it on a placard?
Well, I think there are still racists in our country. There are still Klan members, and there's still neo-Nazis and things like that. But for the most part, an integration of races on the silver screen is not controversial in any way whatsoever.
Right.
Or seeing a married couple who are of different ethnic backgrounds, not controversial.
In the 1930s, Duke Ellington's orchestra was really popular, jazz, all African-American orchestra, really popular. Hollywood wanted to use them in a film. So they flew them out to Hollywood. Putting them on screens, no problem. Putting them in a movie, no problem. America was fine with that. But one of the musicians in Duke Ellington's orchestra was an unusually light-skinned African-American.
Okay.
So the movie studio insisted on putting makeup on him.
Blackface, essentially.
Yes, to make him dark enough that everyone would know. Not that they'd have a problem with African-Americans in movies, but not intermingled.
Right.
With whites.
So they wanted his band to be all African-American.
The band needed to be clearly 100% African-American, or they would offend the South.
Well, and I've said this so many times on this podcast, I almost get sick of it, but it's about economics. If these studios, if Disney felt like having a gay LeFou was going to seriously hurt...
Gay LeFou, he was my favorite nightclub host. Remember him? Wasn't he hilarious?
If they felt like having a gay character in this re-release of Beauty and the Beast was going to seriously undermine their financial success, they would not do it.
He did a comedy act with Soupy Sales.
And so they've come to whatever metrics they've determined that this is not going to be economically negative.
Right.
In fact, it may actually be positive.
And it makes us look good because we're...
And the Hollywood studios did the same thing back during civil rights when they decided, are we going to introduce black characters in some of these movies or have a black couple or a mixed race couple or whatever? They did it at a time when they thought they weren't going to take a hit financially.
Yeah. So is there a way for... if you are a conservative Christian who believes that these issues should not be in kids' movies, that they're too political... Is there a way to protest that without looking like, a racist in 1960?
Not really.
Oh.
I mean, that's just the way you're going to be perceived because the culture has decided that LGBT issues are synonymous with civil rights issues. So you can't avoid it. Now, I can understand a parent, though, who wouldn't want to take their kids to this movie simply because they don't want to have the conversations yet with their kids about what is homosexuality, right? I mean, that's... Sexual conversations with a 5-year-old in general are pretty awkward.
Seems like those conversations are kind of inevitable at this point.
They are, but I think that for various reasons, some people want to be able to choose when they have those conversations with their kids, and I get that.
Right. I mean, there's more TV commercials with same-sex couples. They're bank commercials, bastions of conservatism with same-sex couples.
And a lot of families are dealing with this because there are family members who are gay or are married to same-sex
in the real world
spouses, and so. But it is something I'll do at some point. I'll do a video on this. But
could we do it now?
Well, here's a preview. So there's some psychologists who talk about in every culture there are background decisions and foreground decisions.
Okay.
Background decisions are decisions you don't even think about because the culture has basically made those decisions for you.
Oh, okay.
Foreground decisions are the conscious decisions that you get to make. Mm-hmm. And in general, the more background decisions there are in a culture, the more stable the culture is. So, for most of Western civilization in its history, the definition of marriage wasn't something anyone thought about.
Right, it was a background.
It was a background thing. And now, suddenly, the definition of marriage has been thrust to a foreground issue where we actually have to think about it. Same thing with this bathroom business and most people never even thought about, you're a man, you go to the men's bathroom, women, you go.
Right.
But now we've been forced to.
Suddenly,
we're asking teenagers in schools to pick which bathroom they are.
Right.
Pick
your pronoun.
Well, yeah, that's the other one, is for most of our cultural history, male and female were just, it's you're a man, you're a woman. So now there's 40-some genders on Facebook. That's foreground.
Here's the next hot issue for you. I'm predicting.
Okay.
How much longer can McDonald's keep asking parents whether they want a boy's Happy Meal or a girl's Happy Meal and assuming the toy that goes with that gender?
Right, that's going to go out.
That's great. But that can't last.
The point of this foreground background stuff is the more, first of all, in a capital consumeristic culture, you have to push more and more decisions to the foreground. That's just how
in a capitalist
consumer culture, because you need people to be empowered to make more and more of their own decisions, so they can spend more and more of their money making those decisions.
Oh, okay.
And then the problem with that is, though, the more issues you force into the foreground, the more destabilizing a culture becomes, because there's less and less that we share, that we have agreed upon.
So you're saying capitalism drives towards anarchy, and therefore you're promoting communism.
No, I'm saying communism is a great example. In a communist society, you don't get to choose between 400 different cars. There's two cars.
Easy.
Right? There's two. Coffee. This is the analogy I like the best, actually.
Okay, coffee.
Back in the day, if you were going to order a cup of coffee, it was decaf or regular, black or cream and sugar.
Yeah. Well, back when I was a kid, there was no decaf.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Now you go order a coffee, and there are literally thousands of permutations.
Right.
That's coffee. In general, was a background issue. It was a simple idea, and there was just a few foreground decisions when it came to coffee. Consumer capitalism says, no, we need to create a endless variety of coffee decisions so that you can sell more and more stuff to people. But that same thing has happened with gender, and it's happened with sexuality, and it's happened with family, and it's happened. You can go on down the list. And that's part of the reason people are upset about our politics, is because our political system, and maybe this is a transition to Michael,
is a great one.
No. It's that for American history and our Constitution, our political framework has limited political engagement to two parties, right? It's still, you are either a Democrat or Republican, and those are the background options you have.
Independent.
But more and more people more and more people are saying neither of those categories fit me, and I want more choices.
Right.
And so they're wanting to force politics into the foreground.
I am neither he nor she. I'm XE.
You're what?
XE. That's the gender neutral pronoun.
Is it?
How
do you say it?
I don't know.
Isn't that a Chinese surname?
XE. XE.
Z?
Maybe.
I bet it's Z.
Maybe it's just Z. They're using it in schools in some Canadian school districts now.
Well, it is interesting. English is one of the languages that does not have a neuter pronoun.
Oh. It's because we don't have much of a history of eunuchs.
Okay.
We're light on eunuchs. Okay, our guest is Michael Ware. Are you still with us, Michael?
Yeah, not a eunuch. So that is not the greatest transition to me. But,
I was talking about politics and the
two-party
of our
system. Lack of eunuchs. Okay, let's go. Did you? What thoughts came to your mind with the whole Disney kerfuffle? Did you have any? Do you care about such things?
Well, I think Skye's point that this movie is releasing for a generation now who grew up on the animated film and now have kids to watch it with, and so that kind of intrusion into what can feel like an intrusion into a very personal memory you want to share with your kids that now has been politicized in this way. I think that's a powerful point.
Right.
And then on Skye's coffee point, McDonald's actually just last week released a commercial hitting on exactly this point, hitting on the hipsterification of getting coffee. And so the whole ad is showing all of these different options and processes for getting your coffee, and then the end of the commercial is the McDonald's cashier just handing over a simple cup of black coffee to a customer, and it hits exactly on that.
Yeah,
so people are like, well, why can't I just get a cup of coffee?
Well, and interestingly, I'm going to look up that commercial because this is exactly the appeal of religion. In a culture like ours, is religion, right. When you enter into a religious framework, whether it's evangelical Christianity or Islam or whatever it is, religion takes a lot of those foreground decisions and pushes them back into the background.
You just get your coffee the way
it simplifies life.
It's been handed to you for thousands of years.
Exactly. So that's why you see the rise of fundamentalism throughout the world, simultaneous with the rise of consumer capitalism. Because one is driving more to the foreground and the other is people reacting, going, I can't take it anymore. I want to simplify life. Let's push more to the background, and that's where fundamentalism comes in.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic.
It's McDonald's versus Starbucks.
It's McDonald's, but McDonald's now has Starbucks inside it. They got their McCafes, and they'll make me a mocha that is half the cost of Starbucks mocha and doesn't quite taste the same.
That's unorthodox McDonald's. They're backslidden.
Well, they're trying. They're apostate.
That's right.
Heretics. Okay, Michael, where did you grow up? What was your Christian church background?
Yeah, so I grew up in Buffalo, New York, in a big kind of Italian Catholic family. When I was 15, was handed a tract of Romans by a youth group volunteer, and it changed my life. Committed my life to Christ when I was 15. Okay. A couple years after my sister, but yeah, I grew up in Buffalo. My wife's from Buffalo, and I'm a proud Buffalonian.
Buffalonian.
Is that really what they're called?
The word?
Oh, that is. Oh, it is.
Buffalonian?
Yes. Buffalonian.
I love it. It almost makes me want to move to Buffalo, so I could call myself a.
Isn't there a song about that?
Shuffle off to Buffalo. Yeah. Or 15 miles on the Erie Canal. Okay. So at that point, you began. When did you become aware of the term evangelical?
Yeah, I mean then. So it was, probably when I was 12, 13. I mean, my sister became a Christian evangelical church. That's the church that I can know Christ in. So I've been evangelical since I was a Christian.
And I went to that church in Buffalo. You said, is that the same church that you're talking about?
Yeah, the chapel.
The chapel, that's it. Yeah.
No, you know this church?
I visited there once. I spoke there once. Actually with John Walton.
Oh, that was recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't terribly long ago.
Last year or 2 years ago.
Wow, it was Michael Ware's church.
Yeah.
Is there now a plaque on the front of the church celebrating?
Yeah, this is the spot that marks where. No.
This is where he nailed his thesis to the door and then headed off to Washington. So you became an evangelical, and then how many years later was it that you were working for Barack Obama?
About 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't get the memo. Clearly, you didn't get the memo that part of being an evangelical is being a rock-ribbed Republican.
Yeah, I did get the memo. I mean, so I became a Christian in probably 2005, and it was at that time when, and Skye, we've talked about this. At the exact time that I was becoming a Christian was when it was becoming clear, not just the impact that faith was having in politics, but the effect that politics was having on faith. So Robert Putnam and David Campbell put out a book, Amazing Grace, that showed that a lot of the religious disaffiliation we were seeing was a result of folks thinking that religion was just for political conservatives and Republicans. And our friend Gabe Lyons and David Kinnaman wrote a book called Unchristian that showed all the kind of awful things that people thought about Christians. And so at just the time when I became a Christian and was excited about Jesus and wanted to tell everyone, like, all of my peers were like, oh, so that means like you're judgmental now, and that means you don't really like us anymore. So I had to deal with that kind of clash very early on in my faith.
Okay, and how did you resolve that? Was it on your own that you said, you know what, I think I'm going to be an evangelical and I'm going to be more associated with progressive causes or politics?
Yeah, well, right. So, first, when I became a Christian, I thought, well, now I got to go to seminary and become a pastor, because what else?
Sure, right, because that's the law.
That's right, that is. But sort of had a good pastor, had folks that were in my life. What was clear from the outset was that I was never going to be comfortable anywhere in politics, that I had this new identity that was over everything else. And one of the major problems with our politics right now is that folks are going to it looking for a place to belong. They're looking for, they're going to politics to get their spiritual needs met, and that's a place that will always lead to disappointment.
Yeah, and you say that's new.
It's increasing, and I don't think it's unrelated to the secularization of our culture. Yeah. Although I don't think that completely explains it. I think it has a lot to do with the sort of pop culturification and personalization of our politics. And so politics can reach much deeper into people's lives than it ever could before. Our president, whether it's Trump or Obama or Bush, could be in our living room every night. Right. That's a new kind of thing.
Or in our Twitter feed.
Right. How many Americans are waking up every morning now saying, what did Trump tweet?
My wife follows.
While I slept.
My wife follows 2 people on Twitter.
Me and Trump?
Me, not you. Me and Trump.
Why does she follow me?
She follows me just to keep track of me. Making sure I'm not saying anything I shouldn't be saying. And I think she follows the president for the same reason.
Okay, Michael, so how did you then get introduced to politics, and ultimately how did you end up standing in the West Wing with Barack Obama? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, so I got interested in politics. My grandfather was Greatest Generation, World War II, came back, served in his community, was head of the local labor union, and just those civic values were very much a part of my life, my upbringing. I got to work with, I met the president. I was in D.C., went to the George Washington University here in Washington, and wanted to figure out what it meant to be faithful in public things. And so that's what I was pursuing. It's a longer story that I tell in Reclaiming Hope, obviously, but I ended up at a hotel a couple of days before the event. I was supposed to be organizing a group of people to go to, but I just had the wrong date. And so I end up at this hotel looking around for this convention, and it's not there. I finally asked a receptionist. She goes, "Oh, honey, that's not for another couple of days." And as I'm leaving the hotel, then Senator Obama is walking into the hotel for meetings a couple of days before the convention, and we met. It was about a week before he announced he would run for president, so he didn't have Secret Service around. So we met. I told him I wanted to work for him, and 10 months later, I was in Iowa.
Wow, that was.
So what did you say to him? Did you just say?
Yeah. Was he just handing out jobs to anyone who came up to him in hotel lobbies in those days?
So I had followed his career for a few years at that point, and I told him I believed in his vision, and told him I wanted to work for him. He had a couple staffers with him, and connected with this guy Reggie Love, who was his body man, his personal assistant at the time, and sort of.
Did you ever see Reggie Love when he was on tour with Gay LaFou? No,
I'm not responding to that.
Okay, sorry.
Was Joshua working for him at that point?
Yes, yeah, I think he was. Yeah. So in that interview,
sorry, Joshua Dubois, who's he was your boss basically.
Yeah, when I was in the White House. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
so in that intervening 10 months, I would follow up with the campaign, remind them I was around and ready to help. And right before, about a month and a half before the Iowa caucus, they asked me to come out and work with the president basically since then through 2013.
So what's changed, or what did change in your experience from 2008 and that campaign, where a lot of people might remember in 2004, Barack Obama gave that famous convention speech in Boston where he talked about there's not a red America and a blue America, there's not a black America, white America, and we love,
right.
we worship an awesome God in the blue states. And it was a very inclusive kind of message. And in 2008, his campaign did a lot to reach out to religious conservatives and try to, or theologically religious conservatives, to welcome them into the fold. And he actually made some inroads there. There was a dramatic uptick in the number of evangelicals who voted for Obama than had voted for John Kerry 4 years earlier. But it seemed like that was obliterated by 2012. So what happened in your time at the White House, and
was it your fault? That's what we're really asking.
Right. So what happened to the potential for inclusion that then drifted away?
Yeah, so a few things, right? So Barack Obama was the first post-baby boomer to run for the nomination. So unlike John Kerry, unlike Al Gore, unlike Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama didn't have all of the culture war baggage that other Democratic nominees had. He had a pretty clean slate, A, because he was younger, B, because he hadn't spent much time in public office. He had only been in the Senate for 3 years before he announced he was going to run. Over the course of his first term in office, decisions get made that add to that baggage. Mm-hmm. And so whether we're talking about the HHS mandate, whether we're talking about the fact that by the time May of 2012 came around, he had changed his position on same-sex marriage. Just the accumulated sort of weight and history that built up over his first term made it for a more difficult campaign in 2012 when it came to reaching out to theologically conservative evangelicals. We still did it. We still beat Kerry's numbers in states like Michigan and Ohio, battleground states where we were doing outreach. The president still had significant gains among sort of the baseline Democratic numbers, but it certainly was a very different campaign in 2012.
And how did you feel about it, given where you began and your evangelical background and coming into the Obama campaign, I assume with some level of hope that you could bridge that divide? How did your own view of things change?
I think I understood how entrenched some of these things were. I think what happened over the president's time in office is there was a sense that olive branches were extended that weren't reciprocated in as measurable and as quick a way as outreach to sort of our base or sort of constituencies more inclined to support the president were. And so what happens over time is if you're doing outreach to evangelicals, for instance, and there's distrust, there's not engagement at the level you would like, but then you keep on getting reaffirmed by your friends, by your allies, then that by the time you get around to re-election, the gap is wide. How I felt about it, so my job was not sort of communications. My job was not. I was not, a spokesman. I was in the Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships. My job was to make sure that religious folks had a seat at the table, mm-hmm. And that the views of the faith community were represented in the administration, and that I was accurately and honestly conveying the administration's views to the faith community. And so we had a lot of great work done in the time that I was there. When I went to the re-election campaign, I laid out the best case the president had to people of faith, and the president won the Catholic vote again after John Kerry had lost it and before Hillary Clinton lost it in 2016. Again, we saw significant engagement among other communities. So but it was certainly there were some difficult milestones on the path there.
Did that make it harder for you to do your job? And did you ever question why am I still here? This isn't this isn't accomplishing what I'd hoped to accomplish. Did you start to lose hope at some point?
No, and I'm not sure that. I don't think I'd phrase it as not accomplishing what I set out to accomplish. I think what's clear is that there were decisions that didn't go the way that I thought were best, but that's part of public service. That's part of working for an official who was elected by the people when you weren't. And so the best that you could do is represent the views of the people that you're sort of responsible for and do the best that you can.
So let me hear, what was your pitch when you're talking to religious conservatives on behalf of the Obama administration, and they obviously say, wait a minute, you're representing a Democrat who's pro, abortion rights, and we're conservatives, and that's like the worst thing in the world to us. How on earth are you expecting us to come to your side? What was your pitch?
Yeah, well, it's right. So I haven't worked for the president for 4 years, but I'm happy to sort of go into the time machine back.
Yeah, go back.
Yeah, so let's talk about abortion. The abortion rate is the lowest it's been at the end of the president's time of office since Roe v. Wade. And so we can talk about the legality of abortion. I never it was important to state up front that and not muddle the fact that the president was pro-choice. And what the president did do, unlike Hillary Clinton in 2016, for instance, was advance the positive goal of reducing abortions as part of his campaign. And he actually, I have a chapter on my book on the subject. He didn't, how that proposal moved forward has some, is a cautionary tale for both sides, but at the end of the day, the numbers went down. And then we talked about issues where there are common cause and common concern, whether it's international development and poverty, whether it's the environment, whether it's 20 million plus Americans having healthcare that didn't have it before. And so we laid out the policies that the president supported, not sort of hiding the fact where there was disagreement, and asked people of faith to make a choice based on not just the president's record and policies, but on those of his opponent.
And how different was it making that pitch with conservative Christians under 40 years old versus over 40 years old? Did you see a generational difference?
Yes. So the president's support among younger evangelical Christians was significantly higher than among older Christians, but in a way that you could say that generally about the electorate. His support among younger Americans was higher than older Americans. Right? I think it was very much sort of the post-baby boomer thing. For those under 40, there is an acclamation to sort of the current state of culture war issues that the older generation was and is not at yet. And so there was less of a focus on some of those issues and a broader application of their faith than just on one or two issues.
So then how do you look at, you must have had fun watching the last year. You and Russell Moore wrote a piece last year reaching out kind of to Hillary Clinton over the Hyde Amendment and some of the positions she was taking that, seemed, I guess, needlessly antagonistic to faith communities, would you say?
Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it. Yeah.
And so how did you watch that go down, and what did it make you think about the progress that might have been made during the Obama administration?
We should back up and let our listeners know what the Hyde Amendment is.
Yes, the Hyde Amendment, we know it in Illinois because it was our guy Hyde.
Henry Hyde.
Who
Not Jekyll and Hyde.
We call him Mr. Hyde. But it prevents the use of federal funds to pay for abortions.
Right. So Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democratic platform this year in 2016 wanted to repeal the Hyde Amendment. And as Michael said, in the Obama administration, though he was clearly pro-choice, Obama, his administration enacted policies that resulted in the lowest number of abortions in America in over 40 years. So you can criticize the president for his principled stand on the issue, but practically he reduced the number of abortions, whereas it looked like Hillary Clinton's campaign in the Democratic Party this year wants to reverse that and actually expand abortion.
Right.
And its funding with taxpayer dollars, which is antagonistic toward faith communities.
Yeah. So what was your sense of why that was going down? Were Clinton's folks just giving up on conservatives?
Well, so it used to be the conventional wisdom in American politics that, particularly once the primary was over, that elections were won by who captured the middle. And that conventional wisdom has flipped. Now, both parties believe and operate on the sort of premise that those who turn out their voters the most and energize their base the most will win. And so that was very much the Clinton strategy going in, which was a data-focused, if we turn out this percentage of this constituency and this percentage of that constituency, then we'll have what we'll need to win. And, the karmic rebound, we ruthlessly mocked Mitt Romney and his campaign for going into election night thinking they had the chance to win. And the karmic rebound on that was as short as it could be, 4 years. And the Clinton campaign went into election night feeling very confident that they had all their numbers checked and that there wasn't a way that Donald Trump could win, but he did. And so there was a certain arrogance to the type of campaign that they ran.
So do you see that model going forward, or what's the hope that we could become, our politics could reach more toward the middle again, rather than always going more extreme right or extreme left in order to alienate the other side more and more? Is there hope that in 2020 we're going to have a resurgence of the middle and the people running for president are going to reach out, as Obama at least tried to do in 2008, to the middle, or is it going to be running more and more to the extremes? Right.
And do you know anyone who wrote a book named Reclaiming Hope, and can you explain why they think that we should be hopeful?
Yeah, so I do think there's a chance, though it will come from the public. It will come from what the public craves, and the type of civic character we're building up. The Republicans this time around had several candidates who had a vision for a Republican Party that was reaching towards the middle, and one by one they got defeated by the current head of the Republican Party and the current president. And so
he who shall not be named. Is that what Sorry.
What we're seeing is a sort of a tribalism in our politics that, even if we could see it on the other side, sort of this these divisive tactics being used, it takes a certain kind of built-up character to call it out and reject it on your own side, even if it advances your policy goals. So, look, this can either continue to spiral down, and we could go from President Trump, who is a reality TV show star, to President Kanye West, or, as news reports said last week, President Oprah Winfrey or Mark Cuban, or the American people can say, enough. I don't want a president who is in my living room every night. I don't want a president or political figures who are willing to use all of the emotional levers available to them to get my vote. But that's going to be that's going to require a shift in how Americans think about politics.
So how can Christians be part of the solution? As followers of Jesus, what can we do to make things better?
Yeah, well, what I argue in the book is that Christians have unique resources available to them to enter into politics and to all areas of life in a way that is other-centered, not self-centered, and that we can actually view politics as an essential forum for loving our neighbors. And that when we can go into politics, not looking to find our home in politics, not looking to have our inner needs met by politics, but actually going into politics and looking to serve, looking for how we can help our communities flourish, then Christians can be the salt and light that our politics so desperately needs. So that's, you can bring your whole faith into politics, not cordoning off God from any area of your life, including political things.
So you think when we make politics about getting our own needs met as Christians, we're making a kind of a fundamental error?
Yes, particularly when we're describing sort of emotional and inner needs that politics is never going to meet anyways. And so right now our politics, as we discussed, is so is blatantly appealing to our sense of belonging and this sense of we have a group-based politics, but Christians don't find our belonging in Republican or Democratic parties. We don't identify primarily in that way, and so yes, it's misplacing faith, it's misplacing hope to go to politics looking for those kinds of things.
So apart from purchasing your book, which we recommend everyone to do.
It's called Reclaiming Hope, Lessons Learned in the Obama White House About the Future of Faith in America.
Any other resource or website or outlet that you would point our listeners to help reinforce the ideas that you're mentioning here or to reframe the way they think about their civic engagement?
Yes. The Center for Public Justice is a fantastic organization based in D.C. Our friend Tyler Wiggs Stevenson wrote a phenomenal book called The World Is Not Ours to Save, which was influential to me. And then just a book that I think is helpful in all things that shaped a lot of my thinking is Dallas Willard's The Divine Conspiracy.
All right.
Yeah, we're fans.
Yeah, you could see Dallas's thoughts hopefully in my book. So yeah, those are a few places to start.
Great.
Cool. Do you think, okay, this is really my last question.
Because the ukulele is back.
Yeah, the ukulele has been pulled out. Do you see this kind of turn to the far right as a, this round as a last kind of gasp of identity politics of an older generation before a younger generation pushes that aside? Or is it something deeper and longer term than that?
Yeah, I mean, there are relatively few ideas that have last gasps in American politics. They always seem to come back, and so I resist narratives of sort of inevitable progress or inevitable decline of any sort of political idea. I think the ideas that sort of the old guard right is embracing now can very easily be transmitted to the next generation. I think the question is what kind of country do we want to build? Is that really a healthy way to move forward into the 21st century together?
Right. And does it bother you at all to hear so many followers of Jesus saying we want to put America first?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
That bothers me too. I'm having a hard time communicating why clearly.
It's the NyQuil.
It's the NyQuil. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up now. That was awesome. Again, Michael's book is Reclaiming Hope, Lessons Learned in the Obama White House About the Future of Faith in America. Thank you, Michael Ware, for being on the show. Now we're out of time. I'm so sorry you have to go, but you gave us something to hope about. something besides politics. It makes me want to shout that at the end of the day, it's all about Jesus. And there's nothing Donald Trump can do to please us if we're looking to politics for our identity. Wow, what the heck rhymes with identity?
Serenity.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Skye. And Michael Ware is providing some serenity. So go to Amazon.com and buy his book. It's called Reclaiming Hope. All right. Thank you for saving my butt.
Yeah.
That was so nice.
That's what I do.
And Michael, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks. It was great to be on.
Okay, and if you want to support the podcast, like always, you can go to patreon.com/Phil Vischer. You can give us $2 a month or $5 a month or $4 a month or whatever bucks a month you want to give us, and then we'll buy Skye some new hair.
Yes. And go to iTunes and give us a review so more people can find the podcast.
Oh, yeah, that too. Okay.
Thanks.
See you next week.
The Phil Vischer Podcast is produced by Phil Vischer Enterprises and recorded live at Jellyfish Lab Studios. This episode was edited by Jason Rugg and was fact-checked by absolutely no one. For more information, go to philvischer.com.